Uh, Dear ministers, excellencies, mayor, dear participants and guests of the conference. So first of all, I would like to start with expressing my thanks to our Norwegian hosts, and it's really a privilege to represent the Russian chairmanship of the Barents Euro-Artic Council here today at the conference. Kirkenes is by right considered to be the cradle of the Barents Euro-Artic Council and the Barents process on the whole. And I believe that being here today evokes among the conference participants a special sense of belonging to the Barents process and a feeling of a personal contribution to the promoting cooperation in the European North. Over the 25 years of the Barents Euro-Artic Council, over the 25 years of its existence, the Barents Euro-Artic Council has developed into a dynamic intergovernmental collaboration structure covering every key area of life. The Barents process today remains a sustainable peace project which offers us considerable opportunities. By joint efforts, we managed to establish in the Northern Europe the zone of confidence, stability and good neighborhood, which is resistant to the fluctuations of the political environment. The Council is a true idea generator and can take credit for many effective projects in all spheres of the region's life. So it would not be an exaggeration to say that the Council's activities are the story of success. BEAC is probably one of the most effective models of regional interaction that can be applied in other parts of the world as well. The Barents process, as you know, is unique because of its two-storied construction. So cooperation is maintained not only between the participating governments, but also at the regions level within the Barents Regional Council. And it allows us to identify the particularly relevant projects and to combine the strategic priorities of the member states with the specific interests that needs of separate regions in the best possible way. So BEAC is now approaching its 25th anniversary, and Russia is proud to be in charge of the Council at this remarkable stage. Last autumn, Russia has passed the equator of its two-year chairmanship of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council. And as the BEAC chair, Russia aims at ensuring efficient continuity of the Council activities and further promoting multilateral cooperation for the benefit of the Barents region people, including the indigenous peoples. Our main objective as a chair of the BEAC is to promote sustainable and social and economic development of the North, build modern infrastructure, enhance the region competitiveness and improve investment climate by using rationally its scientific, innovative and resource potential, while taking into consideration the environmental aspects. Needless to say that improving the living standards of the people living here remains our ultimate goal. And this can be only achieved by joining efforts, sharing experience, knowledge and advanced technologies. In this regard, we believe that broad international cooperation at higher latitudes has no alternative. During our chairmanship, we focus our attention on three main topics, and these are transport and logistics, environment and climate, culture and tourism. And as we try to follow the result-oriented approach, so we decided to highlight each of the three priorities of the Russian chairmanship with a corresponding ministerial meeting. So in November 2015, the Ministers of Environment met in Karelia in Russia. In June 2016, the Ministers of Transport of the BEAC member states met in Arkhangelsk. And in November 2016, the Ministers of Culture held their meeting in Moscow. And each of the ministerial meetings produced a visible output for our cooperation. So the meeting of the Ministers of Environment decided on the exclusion of 3 more environmental hotspots in the Barents region. So now, from the original list of 42 hotspots, it has been reduced by 9 in total. So, as you see, a lot of work is still to be done. And this activity requires a really comprehensive approach, substantial knowledge and financial resources. And in this connection, I would like especially to point out the contribution of the Nordic Environmental Finance Corporation to this process. The intensive work in this field will be continued in close cooperation with the Norwegian chairmanship of the Barents Working Group on Environment. We also work hard on updating the action plan on climate change for the Barents region. The BRIAC Ministers of Transport at their meeting in Murmansk, at their meeting in Arkhangelsk, managed to make a significant progress in the elaboration of the joint Barents Transport Plan. It provides for the establishment of 16 effective, safe and sustainable cross-border routes or corridors, as we call them, covering 3 means of transport: motor, railway and sea transport. The draft plan also outlines the need to establish the convenient and reliable east-west air connection in the European North. Creating favorable conditions for environmentally, socially and culturally sustainable tourism is also one of the main tasks of the Russian chairmanship. And as it was already mentioned by Vice Governor Alexei Tukavin, so this is also in focus of the Murmansk region as well. So the tourism industry could receive a great boost with a possible extension of the Kirkenes of the ferry line which is run by the Hurtigruten from Kirkenes to Murmansk. There are also plans to establish a tourist route from in the European Arctic from Murmansk to Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya and Solovetsky Ostrova, and then to Arkhangelsk. And in this respect, I would like to mention once again the decree which was passed by the Russian government in July 2006, which extends 72 hours visa-free regimes for cruise passengers to the Murmansk and Arkhangelsk. So we believe that this decision will contribute significantly to the development of the tourism in the European Arctic and generally to the development of people-to-people contacts in the region. So culture is another priority of the Russian chairmanship, and the BRIAC Ministers of Culture agreed at their meeting in Moscow last November to introduce a biannual Barents Culture Cooperation Scholarship. So we expect that the first such scholarship could be awarded already this year, later in October during the BRIAC ministerial session in Arkhangelsk. And individual or group winners from Finland, Norway, Russia and Sweden will receive 10,000 euro each on the biannual basis. Now I would like to say a few words about our major events of the Russian chairmanship for the near future. So on the 29th, 30th of March, Arkhangelsk will host the 4th forum, Arctic, the Territory of Dialogue. It's a really big event, international big event, which is traditionally attended by the President of the Russian Federation. So the forum will be dedicated to the issues of social and economic development of the Arctic territories, effective and sustainable exploration of its natural resources, and promotion of the international cooperation in the Arctic. And there will be a special session dedicated to the Barents cooperation, with the emphasis on the Russian chairmanship. The event will also include an exhibition displaying the new machines, equipment and Arctic technologies developed recently in Russia. And participants from as many as 30 countries are expected to attend this forum. It was decided recently that this forum, Arctic, the Territory of Dialogue, will be held regularly on the biannual basis, so every second year. And it will be held in Arkhangelsk. So it will be one of the 3 main Arctic forums alongside with the Arctic Frontiers in Tromsø and the Arctic Circle in Reykjavik, Iceland. So it remains vital also to support the indigenous peoples, to ensure their rights and interests, providing them with appropriate living and working conditions, including their traditional occupations, to further involve them in cooperation in the field of education, healthcare, environmental protection and infrastructure improvement. And we believe that additional impetus to this work can be given at the ever first Barents Indigenous Peoples Summit, which is to be held in Moscow on April 28th, back to back with the annual international exhibition Treasuries of the North. So the focus will be on social and economic development of the indigenous people of the Barents region. So Russia is also keen to promote the parliamentary dimension of the Barents cooperation, and the key event during our chairmanship will be the 8th Parliamentary Conference of the Barents region, which will be held in early June in in Naryan-Mar, Nenets Autonomous Okrug. And finally, on the 18th and 19th of October, Arkhangelsk will host the 16th BIAC ministerial session, which is the regular meeting of the Ministers for Foreign Affairs of the BIAC member states. And this meeting will be the concluding event of the Russian chairmanship. So the dynamic development of the Barents process encourages us to think about some new fresh ideas, fresh initiatives, which could give additional push to the cooperation in the Barents region. And in this regard, Russia has suggested recently to establish a permanent regional high-level forum, a kind of a Barents Davos, as we call it. So it's important to have a representative discussion platform for the entire Barents agenda with the emphasis at sustainable socio-economic development of our region. It's also important for to increase the knowledge about our region and the visibility of the Barents region vis-à-vis the outer world. So as we see it, so the Barents Davos conference, so it should bring together the national and regional politicians, business and civil society leaders, representatives from the academic circles and mass media of the Barents countries. And it should be a comprehensive and inclusive forum with participation of all BIAC member states and 14 Barents regions which are participating in the Barents cooperation. So the first such forum could be held in 2018 in connection with the 25th anniversary of the BIAC. Though the interaction within the Barents Euro-Artic Council have been quite fruitful and successful, I can't help mentioning the area where Barents Euro-Arctic Council lags behind other regional formats in the European North. And this challenge relates to the financing of the Barents cooperation. So it's our deep belief that the international organization, international format of cooperation, is its strength is not only in the ability to generate good ideas, but also in capacity to convert these good ideas into concrete projects of cooperation. So the implementation of concrete projects of cooperation is a very important feature of really every strong international organization. And now we have a paradox in the European North. So Barents Euro-Arctic Council, while being probably the most successful example of regional cooperation in the European North, it is still the only format of cooperation which does not have its own financial instrument. So as you remember, in 2013, at the summit, at the Barents summit in Kirkenes on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the Barents Euro-Arctic Councils, then the Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev made a proposal to think about the establishment of such a financial instrument. Then during the Finnish BIAC chairmanship we discussed it for 1.5 years, but the final conclusion of our group was that there are enough financial resources in the region, and that the BIAC does not have its financial mechanism. But I was at the Barents Cooperation Forum in Helsinki in December, and very many participants mentioned in their speeches that though the decision was negative, but we should not exclude the idea to establish the BIAC financial mechanism from the agenda of the Barents Cooperation. Of course, we could achieve our truly ambitious goal in the region only by joining the efforts of all the stakeholders, all the organizations which are active in the European North. So sustainable and efficient network of intergovernmental cooperation is already established in the region. In addition to the BIAC, it includes also the Arctic Council, the Council of the Baltic Sea States, the Nordic Council of Ministers, as well as the Northern Dimension partnerships, and also the duplication of the four councils' work take place sometimes, not too often, I would say, but it does not cause any serious problem for the forum's performance. So each council is an independent and important player in the region. At the same time, the new challenges we are facing now require better coordination between the four sister councils, as we call them, and the Northern Dimension Partnership. And taking that into account, Russia reiterates its initiative, its proposal to resume the practice of holding the coordination meetings of the four councils of the North and the Northern Dimension partnerships at the political level. So, namely at the level of the deputy ministers for foreign affairs. So, our proposal to hold next regular meeting of such kind before the end of the Russian BIAC chairmanship, it's still on the table. I would like just to remind that the last coordination meeting at the political level, so it was held in January 2012 in Oslo, in Norway. So it has passed already 5 years since the last meeting. So in the end, I would like to point out once again that the effective development of the cooperation in the European North strongly depends on the engagement of all the stakeholders at both national and regional level, from both public and private sectors. And only by joining our efforts, we could make the Barents region a sustainable, prosperous and competitive part of Europe. So thank you very much for your attention.